But let's talk about the meeting itself. How did Anthony Albanese do? Did he get the right result? I mean, this was a long time coming. There's been so much anticipation building up to it. It appears the AUKUS deal is safe. That must be seen as a win.
Yes, and I think just the point you made just before that, Danica, is a good one. Maybe that's why he brought Kevin Rudd at the table, to sort of create a diversion and let Kevin Rudd be the magnet that sucks the ire out of Trump, and giving him some clean space to do what he needs to do policy-wise. I think getting the enthusiastic reaffirmation of AUKUS is a good thing. There's reportedly some ironing out of the framework that is still going to happen, but in general, Trump did take a dig at Biden, as he often does, for being very slow to move, and he says he's actually going to accelerate it and be on track to get the submarines by the deadline of 2030. And then the other big thing was the minerals deal. That is something that is really picking up a lot of heat in the global trade war between the U.S. and China, and Australia does have a pivotal role in that as well. So I think those two things, it does look like the Prime Minister seems to have walked away with a stronger position and more clarity about where there's common ground and shared roles, common ground that we can find between both countries, and a shared role that both countries can play for mutual better interests. And hopefully that stays on track.
And just before we move on to other topics, I want to ask you about this critical minerals deal that's been signed by Australia and the US. It's worth $13 billion. What does this mean for us?
You know, the biggest value that I think Australia brings in general to the alliance right now, but specifically for what Trump is keyed in on, and that is his trade war with China, is geographic proximity to China, and then also these critical minerals, because there is an escalating trade war going on right now, and China has, over the past couple of decades and more, really been locking up rare minerals from other countries around the world. And the U.S. and President Trump really has taken note of that, and Australia provides counterbalance to that, a meaningful one. So the value of it trickling right into the Australian economy is a good thing. Having the rare earth minerals is one thing, but being able to refine it and actually develop it is sophisticated manufacturing that this deal hopefully would undergird some sort of further partnership between the U.S. and Australia. And it also really is just a counterweight and a deterrent to China's strategy in this category.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Well, finally got the meeting, and it's been a fascinating 24 hours in Washington, that's for sure. Let's move on, because a court has ruled that Donald Trump can deploy Oregon National Guard troops into the city of Portland. Now, look, this has been interesting, Kosha. I'm keen to get your views on how big of a win is this, because there's been a lot of setbacks in Donald Trump's efforts to crack down on crime in parts of America. This has gone to court. The Court of Appeals has now gone, no, go for it. But does it set a standard?
It certainly sets a good winning precedent for the Trump administration. The other side very well may appeal it up to the Supreme Court, and they'll obviously have the final say, but they are largely expected to uphold this ruling. And in other cases where other circuits and appeals courts have ruled in the reverse and the opposite effect, those are making their way up to the Supreme Court as well, and the expectation is that the Supreme Court will, again, rule in the Trump administration's favor, because, again, while there is sovereignty, and we like that in the U.S., and states have their own sovereign rights, the whole thing that the Trump administration is anchoring this on is they're going there to provide backup. The National Guard is going to provide backup to ICE. So ICE is allowed to go and find these the illegals and conduct their mass deportation operations. If they're being attacked, which they are, day in and day out, the National Guard and whoever else the federal government wants to deploy to protect ICE agents, they are allowed to do so. That's what this ruling says. It's a very important precedent, and hopefully we see that ripple effect come out in the other circuits.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Now, Senate Democrats have again blocked the Republicans' plan to reopen the government for an 11th time. Look, Kosha, this is just getting ridiculous now. The shutdown's nearing its 4th week. There just appears to be no end in sight. What is it going to take, do you think?
Indeed, this is an impasse. It's just a few days shy of the longest shutdown in history, which was in Trump's first term, 35 days. I think we're inching close to that benchmark. And this time, though, what is different compared to last time, where ultimately it was Trump that caved, is that this time the one big beautiful bill that was passed before we got to the shutdown point already has funded Trump's agenda, by and large. All of the mass deportation efforts that we just discussed, other things relating to the wall, cutting funding for illegals that are taking up public welfare programs, things like that that are very popular. He's got all of that squared away. which puts him in a position to really play hardball on this. Yes, the right side of the aisle and the Republicans will pay a little bit of a price politically when certain things start to not function properly as the shutdown drags on. But most of those things that the American people support, he's got locked away. This politically puts the other side, the Democrats, in a very tough light. And I don't think it's going to be the Trump administration that's going to cave this time. It's going to be the Democrats. The sticking point is health care for illegals. That is a red line that Team Trump has drawn, and it's going to take them to capitulate on that. The Democrats capitulating on that is what it'll take to finally break this impasse.
Well, I mean, the Dems' demands have just been absolutely ridiculous from the beginning. But the interesting thing is that this shutdown has not even harmed President Trump's public support. In fact, his approval rating has increased. Have a look at this.
About Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating, we're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support.
Kosha, it seems as though it's backfired for the Democrats.
I think the foundational point is that Trump actually is not as hated as he was then. He still is hated by many, many people, but a little bit less so. He is actually more popular than he was the first time around for many reasons. Second is on this issue specifically, the linchpin that we talked about, where it's coming down to illegals and should they be beneficiaries of free health care or not. That's sort of the sticking point. The country and the electorate has completely shifted in the last 10 years on this issue. They are in support of mass deportations, of certainly the violent criminal illegals, but even the rest of them, and not continuing to give welfare handouts and hard-earned American taxpayer money to illegals. Even if they're quote-unquote good people, you come in the country and stay illegally, you should not be getting access to welfare. So that issue, the Trump team has done a really good job, I think, of reframing it, and people sort of get that. The branding on the other side is the Schumer shutdown, and just the way they've been behaving and the fact that they are at an all-time low electorally, politically, in the court of public opinion, and everything else is helping sort of boost up Trump in this fight as it continues.
Yeah, look, no doubt about it. Now, I thought this one was interesting. The New York Post editorial board has called for Republican New York City mayoral candidate Curtis Siwa to quit to stop Zohran Mamdani. And it comes as a new poll has found that the Democratic nominee Mamdani maintains a comfortable lead in the race, Kosha, as he has for some time. Do you see Siwa actually pulling the pin realistically now?
This is really, really tough one, and I don't envy his position because what they're asking, the New York Post and others, is for Curtis Siwa to be a tragic hero in this, really, because he's polling at around 15 to 20%. That's actually pretty strong for a Republican candidate these days in New York, and that is cannibalizing the vote between the other two. Andrew Cuomo is 15 to 20 points. That same difference basically behind Mamdani. So theoretically, if he pulls out, it puts Cuomo in giving him a fighting chance to possibly win. However, not everybody who right now is supporting Siwa is going to flow over to Cuomo. He is not exactly the most favored or sympathetic figure in general. A lot of people are still very angry with how he mishandled COVID, among other things. He himself, Cuomo, is not as strong as he was in the prime of his career. So it really is a lesser of the two evils issue. I don't know if he's going to do it or not. The pressure is on for him. But even if he does it, it'll certainly tighten the race. But even with that, it just really looks like this is Mamdani's, unfortunately, to win.
Unfortunately, gosh, you know, I just don't even know what to say, to be honest, when it comes to that bloke. It's extraordinary that he is ahead in the polls. Before we let you go, let's talk about Bernie Sanders. He's gone on The View saying that the Democratic Party needs to make a fundamental decision about what they stand for. Have a listen.
I think that Trump won a lot of working class people, not because they wanted tax breaks for billionaires. Not because they wanted to throw 15 million people off the health care they have or double health insurance premiums. That is not why working class people voted for Trump. I think they voted for Trump because they looked at the Democrats and they said, what do you stand for? Which side are you on?
Is he right, Kosha?
You know, he is trying to return to his roots there. He was the OG from the Democrat Party when, yes, they were the party of the working class, like now it seems like a lifetime ago, and he was the best representative of that, but he missed his moment. His moment was in 2016, where he absolutely was organically giving Hillary Clinton a run for her money. He beat her in the Michigan primaries in terms of the organic support and other parts of the Rust Belt, but then because of the weird superdelegate system that the Democrats have, she was still able to lock up the nomination. And he, when the moment really mattered, he rolled over, folded like a cheap tent, and because of that, he no longer has credibility on this issue, even though he once did. So he's right in the diagnosis of the issue, but he has no credibility. He's not the spokesperson for it, and I don't know who is in the Democrat Party anymore. They've left that era behind that he's talking of. They absolutely are viewed as the party of billionaires. One billionaire after another very much supports the Democrats. You've sort of got Elon Musk and maybe Zuckerberg and Bezos in recent times begrudgingly pulling away, but by and large, that ship that he's talked about has sailed. If they can figure out how to come back to that, I think it'll be better for the country to actually have both parties caring about the working class and maybe differing a little bit on the margins of the policy and the solutions for serving them, but that is not where the Democrats are right now.
No, very, very clearly not. Kosha Gada, good to see you. Thanks very much for joining me.